Chapter 9. The Protagonist. 2. As the screen dinged with the sponsorship offers that Kim Dokja had received, everyone paid attention to the names displayed there.
Several constellations are shocked.
To be fair, that was a perfectly reasonable reaction, considering just who had put their names forward to be a sponsor right at the beginning. Dokja looks at the screen for the sponsor selections appraisingly, noticing that he has 4 options.
Select a constellation. The selected constellation will be your reliable sponsor. Abyssal Black Flame Dragon, Demon-like Judge of Fire, Secretive Plotter, Prisoner of the Golden Headband.
Well, now everyone knew who offered him a sponsorship, Kim Dokja mused as he watched the shocked faces of the people around him. Even Yoo Jin-yook's somehow perfectly groomed brow was raised in surprise.
The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon declares that he is the best of the list. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband picks his nose. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is fluttering her wings in excitement. The constellation Secretive Plotter is smiling mysteriously.
Some incarnations grumbled in jealousy, and Kim Dokja worried a bit, knowing they would all probably feel extremely let down shortly. As he thinks, Sangha comes up to him nervously.
Dokja, 2 strange options suddenly popped up.
I don't know anything either. Dokja lies easily. Just think of it as taking an aptitude test. As she thinks over her options, Dokja muses that she's lucky to have received 2 offers. The ones who provide support to us are the constellations, and now, sponsor selection, one of the main events in TWSA, has started. The sponsor selection is a system in which the constellations who watch us through the Dokebi's channels choose a human they like as their incarnation and sponsor them. The streaming interface appears on the screen, focused on Dokja. There are 4 hands offering him coins as the constellations talk in the chat.
Abyssal Black Flame Dragon. Why did he kill Namwoon?
Secretive Plotter.
He shouldn't have used his coins. Demon-like Judge of Fire. Now that is justice. LOL.
Prisoner of the Golden Headband. I just knew he would kill the grasshopper. Each of them has sponsored him 100 coins. And in my case, 4 constellations wants to sponsor me as their incarnation, but the constellations never reveal their true name. Dokja knows that 4 options isn't a small number at all, considering that TWSA's Protagonist had 5 options to start. Honestly, it's impressive.
Young is impressive, Lee Gil-young declared happily. Of course you'd get some awesome constellations trying to sponsor you.
Well, it's not like he was trying to achieve that. Still, Kim Dokja ruffled Lee Gil-young's fluffy hair with a small smile. Wait a minute, Jung Hee-won said suddenly. Was that the interface that the constellations see?
The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire says that it is.
So you guys really just have a whole chat window to comment on the scenarios? Apparently so. To be honest, even Kim Dokja was surprised to see their comments on the screen. It humanized them, in a way. Using the hints in their nickname, like Abyssal, Demon, and Garden, we must try to deduce their identities ourselves. Well, it's a piece of cake for a reader of TWSA like me. His gaze falls upon the modifier Abyssal Black Flame Dragon first. The image displayed is an imposing and powerful-looking black dragon with wings extended menacingly that could make any Chuninbyo cry tears of joy. He's a powerful being that leads the Black Cloud Nebula. From what I recall, his true name was quite long. His incarnation receives an additional boost to their power level. Considering that stamina and strength are vital in the early scenarios, it would be smart to select him as my sponsor. Unfortunately, the benefits end there. The more you use his power, the more you lose your senses. Eventually, you'll end up as a psychotic killer. Usually he supports edgelord attributes. I'm pretty sure he was the constellation who supported Kim Namwoon in the novel, so why did he choose me? Dokja's expression falls flat as he thinks and looks back at the screen. I don't know about him. I'll just put him on hold for now.
The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is offended.
Yeah, that was expected.
The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon claims that incarnation Kim Dokja should have chosen him.
Nope, no chance in hell of that one. The last thing he wanted was to be wrapping bandages around his wrist and striking some lame pose while saying something about the dark evil flame of destruction or whatever other chuny bullshit the dragon wanted him to talk about. Kim Nam-woon could do it without shame since the guy was already so deep in his delusion that it didn't matter, but Kim Duk-soo was a whole-ass adult. He wouldn't be caught dead doing that. My second option is... He's amazed to see the next name on the list. Demon-like Judge of Fire. Judging from the name, one could assume that this constellation is a demon. A horrifying demon, massive and fierce, appears on the screen.
The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire is baffled.
Oh no.
The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon laughs at constellation demon-like Judge of Fire. The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire says that's not what she looks like.
But, ironically, demon-like means that this constellation isn't a demon. The words fire and judge indicate that this entity makes judgments through fire. That means she's actually... A brilliant golden aura fills the screen as wings unfurl to reveal an angel holding a sword and a set of scales. Archangel Uriel. I remember someone chose her as their sponsor in the novel, he thinks contemplatively. Uriel isn't a bad choice, but I'll explore my other options first. Constellations of absolute good are powerful, but they impose strict restrictions on their incarnation.
The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire is flustered. The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire admits that this is true.
Considering the types of stories that were common for the angels, Kim Duk-soo was fairly confident he had made the right choice, even if having her as a sponsor would have put a very powerful tool in his arsenal. Still, Yusanga says with an admiring gaze,
Uriel Nim is very beautiful in that picture. The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire is blushing.
So, even the archangel that purges evil and defeats demons can be cured. That was kind of surprising, considering she didn't really tend to act that way in TWSA. And the third, secretive plotter. He appears on the screen as a mysterious figure in space, white eyes glowing through the veil he wears that covers his head, and robes that conceal all other physical details. Everything about him is in question. Duk-soo narrows his eyes and frowns. He's never seen this option anywhere in TWSA before, but maybe he could figure it out if he could go back and read the novel again. There's a chance this constellation was mentioned offhand once or twice, but there's one thing of which he's certain. Secretive plotter is not a powerful being. The adjective secretive sounds so feeble. Ah, shit. Duk-soo cringed as the first indirect message popped up.
The constellation secretive plotter is flabbergasted. The constellation secretive plotter is offended by the assumption of incarnation Kim Duk-soo.
Well, sorry? It's not like anything had happened yet to prove otherwise, though. The only thing he could say for sure was that the secretive plotter had a decent number of coins that he could sponsor despite being an unknown constellation. That was honestly kind of suspicious. Kim Duk-soo thought for a moment, trying to find any kind of answer to that question. He knew that more powerful constellations sometimes had more than one modifier, so maybe the secretive plotter was actually from a well-known nebula and was just going incognito in Bi-hyung's channel for some reason? Still, were there any constellations he knew of whose actions would have earned them that kind of modifier who fit the other criteria? And why would a constellation like that use their incognito modifier during sponsor selection instead of a modifier that would be more likely to get chosen? Wow, Han Se-young said, amused, cutting off Kim Duk-soo's thoughts. You really are out to make all the constellations your enemies, aren't you? Well, not intentionally yet, but that was probably true. Kim Duk-soo just sighed and rolled his eyes. Without a second thought, he moves on. The last one is Prisoner of the Golden Headband. His heart pounds, and Duk-soo has to grasp onto his shirt to try and calm himself. He can't believe that this constellation has made an offer already. Prisoner. This adjective may sound negative at first, but you have to pay attention to the proper noun. Golden Headband. The smallest prison in the world. The owner of Mount Huagao, who lives with the pain of the binding head shackle. The handsome monkey king with the golden gaze and furious eyes. The screen shows the silhouette of the Monkey King himself with glowing eyes, imposing and fierce. The great sage, heaven's equal, Sun Wukong. One of the characters was sponsored by him in the novel. He has the power to crush hundreds of incarnations with a single swing of his staff, and eradicate thousands of monsters with a single lightning bolt. The passage was extremely memorable to Doksha, considering how the author emphasized it. The only problem is that he can't understand why someone so powerful would be interested in him. If I choose the great sage, heaven's equal, as my sponsor. He glances up past everyone, and his gaze locks onto the window at the end of the cabin that leads to cabin 3707. Will I be able to beat him?
The Constellation prisoner of the Golden Headband is pleased that he is considered handsome.
Well, he had been described in TWSA as good-looking, but Kim Doksha had never seen the Constellation himself to say for sure. Still, he wasn't described as being able to slap Yu Jin-yuk's cheeks, so at least there was a maximum level of handsomeness he could reach.
The Constellation's secretive plotter is frowning.
Okay, but why? Kim Doksha didn't understand, but maybe the secretive plotter was still upset from the last section?
The Constellation god of wine and ecstasy says that he is more handsome.
Yeah, doubtful. At the glance towards cabin 3707, however, Kim Doksha noticed that Yu Jin-yuk's frown deepened. Well, he had been debating about whether or not he'd be able to kick the protagonist's ass with the power of the great sage, so it was probably justified. A few moments later, a pop-up appears. Sponsor selection has ended. The dokebi pops back in and gleefully remarks that someone has made a very interesting choice, but also reminds them that there will be more opportunities in the future. Now that the sponsor selection is over, he declares a short break and vanishes again to prepare the next scenario, which will start in 10 minutes. The moment he's gone, Doksha gathers everyone in the cabin for introductions. As he shakes Hyun-sung's hand, Doksha remarks on his strong grip. It makes sense, considering Hyun-sung is the designating tanker in the early stages of TWSA. At that moment, Doksha reaffirms that he needs to recruit the lieutenant. Hyun-sung thanks him profusely for what he did earlier, even mentioning that living through the murder of others would mean that they don't deserve to live as humans. However, his heartfelt thanks are interrupted by Han Moon-go slapping a palm down on Doksha's shoulder. Sleazy as always, the man still demands the same respect he was used to in the workplace, even though the company likely no longer exists. Doksha quickly gets fed up and tells him to shut up. After, he spends some time getting everyone to come to their senses and realize the truth of what's going on in this world. This isn't a joke. A game-like interface attributes, windows, and skills, Doksha lists. Is there still anyone who doesn't understand what's going on? Everyone is silent until Hyun-sung sighs and scratches the back of his head. It's the kind of thing I read about in novels while covering the night shift. I still can't believe this is real. This isn't a dream, right? Doksha shakes his head. Unfortunately, this is now our reality. To think I was actually right when it came to the novel idea. Lee Hyun-sung muttered with a sigh and a shake of his head. If you had told me this back then, I would have never guessed it could be real. To be fair, it's not like he could have known in advance, as a character in the very novel that had come to life. At the very least, everyone still here had managed to adapt to the circumstances as well as they could. Since Doksha seemed to be the only person who has any idea of what's going on, Hyun-sung decides to ask if he has any plans. Suddenly, 2 pop-ups appear in front of Doksha. The character Lee Hyun-sung has started to trust you. Your understanding of the character Lee Hyun-sung has increased. There's only one thing to do. We have to get out of here. Everyone stares at Doksha in disbelief, except for Gil-young. Outside, another ichthyosaur roars loudly. All at once, everyone begins talking over each other. Are you out of your mind? Doksha, I think that's a bit... I also need to check on my unit, but I think it would be dangerous to leave the premises right now. Yeah, if we leave, we're going to get killed. Doksha sighs. Oh no. Even Hyun-sung is against it, and I have to take him with me no matter what. Lee Hyun-sung sent Kim Doksha a small smile. I'm still coming to terms with everything, but At least I know that Dokjasi has always valued my abilities, even if you knew about them because of a novel. That was honestly such a relief to hear. I'm very glad that Hyun Sung-si is so reliable too, Kim Doksha replied, relaxing slightly when Lee Hyun Sung's smile widened a bit. They definitely wouldn't have been able to get as far as they had without him, and there was no way they could reach the ending Kim Doksha wanted if he wasn't there.
The Constellation Master of Steel is smiling.
A loud noise booms through the cabin, and it sounds like something slamming on metal. Everyone turns to look for where the sound came from, and Dokcha's mind races as he tries to determine if this is the start of the next scenario. No, it couldn't be since the Dokkaebi isn't back yet. That leaves only one option for what it could be. Someone slamming on the door that divides their cabin from cabin 3707. The person on the other side of that door is the only survivor of subway cabin 3707. A boot slams into the door even harder, denting the metal. It was quite obvious who that was. The slams continue, and Doksha's eyes go wide. He's coming. The true protagonist of this story. Immediately, he jumps into action. We have to get out of here. When Hyun Sung tries to protest, Doksha cuts him off instantly. If we don't leave right now, we're all going to die before the next scenario. Hyun Sung looks nervous, but tries to reason with him anyway. Doksha, we can't be sure that whatever is on the other side of that door is our enemy. He's a survivor who killed all those people in his cabin, Doksha retorts. Do you still want to meet him? Sangha and Hyun Sung pause for a moment before they hurry to find a way to escape their subway cabin. Unfortunately, every door they check is broken, but at least the force field is gone. There has to be a working door somewhere, but they only have so much time. After all, the slams on the door are getting louder. Kim Doksha shivered slightly, remembering what would happen once the protagonist broke through that door. It had definitely been a memorable first meeting, if nothing else. Isanga laughed awkwardly.
Yujin Yaxi was certainly a bit frightening at the beginning.
Was she implying that the protagonist somehow wasn't still frightening? Was she seeing the same man? Not even his godly looks would be able to save him from that accusation. Eugenuk, for his part, looked disgruntled as he glanced over in her direction. I had to break through a steel door. Well, fair enough. There was no way to gently kick down a door, after all. Funny, or concerningly, the protagonist made no comment on the fact that everyone was certain that he would try to kill them. Kim Doksha wasn't sure how to feel about that.
The Constellation Secretive Plotter scoffs.